Hello YouTubers, it's me, Benjamin Krudwig, and I am back again for another video. Tutorial. So this is the first tutorial I've done in a while. I've been mostly doing updates recently since I've been so busy with work. And so I'm going to try and, get back into the swing of things. I've heard a lot of your feedback on my previous videos to slow down, so I will attempt to be slower. I just kind of tend to go quickly in all the things that I do, so this, is going to be a challenge, but I will work on it. So today I'm going to talk to you about hyperbolic crochet. So I know a lot of you might not have heard of it. It's not terribly popular, however it's becoming more and more popular as time goes on. And some of you might be doing it without realizing that you're doing hyperbolic crochet. It's actually how you make ruffles on things, like skirts and camisoles or whatever. So I'm going to teach you how to do it today, but I'm also going to show you real quick some applications of it. So I have a few samples here of hyperbolic crochet that I've done. So the most common example that you're going to see is this form here. So it's just kind of squiggly looking. I started with a foundation chain, I believe, of 4 or 5, which will be what I'm going to start with today in the actual video in the tutorial. All the samples I'm showing you are done in cotton worsted weight, using, I believe it's a size G hook. But I'm going to show you in wool in fingering weight with a size F hook. So the thing about hyperbolic crochet is it was actually, I wouldn't say invented, but it was made popular by a mathematician, a professor at a university, who was trying to model hyperbolic space, which is non-Euclidean space. I know this is going to sound like jargon, like mathematical jargon that I don't even completely understand. But Euclidean space is, your basic 3 dimensions. Straight lines, if they're parallel, they're never going to intersect. Well, in hyperbolic space, your parallel lines do intersect at some point along the curve. So they were trying to model it, and computer models only go so far. And they realized that crochet is one of the only forms that actually allows you to see hyperbolic space. You'll see these forms in lettuce, in sea slugs, in a lot of organic life. However, you can't recreate it very easily unless unless you're nature. So this is just one form. You can keep trying to align this outer edge, and it'll give you a spiral like so. However, if you try to pull it straight, it'll want to fold up on itself. So there's that one, a pretty interesting one. Then this one is a little bit larger. You can see, I don't remember what I started with on this one, but I just kept adding and adding and adding, and then I started to do the hyperbolic crochet after I went back and forth for a while, and it created this form. It's getting tangled in the yarn. It's a very organic form. It almost looks like a sea slug. It's a really elegant and beautiful form, which is actually one of the reasons why I love hyperbolic crochet so much, is just because it's so organic looking. I'm speechless. I just love the way that this looks. And the thing about crochet is that every stitch, has endless possibilities of what you're going to do with it. So in hyperbolic crochet, you can choose to increase whenever you want, and you can choose to not increase whenever you want, or to decrease whenever you want, which really makes the forms unique and organic, as you can kind of just make them up on the spot. So this one was kind of a free form. I didn't have a plan, and I just went with it. So there's this one. You can also create three-dimensional forms that aren't just planar like the curves that I just showed you. So I have this form where I increased in every stitch. You know, I keep increasing, and then when I got to this row, I decided, well, I'm going to decrease like the same amount that I increased, and then I did it again. I increased and then decreased, and it created almost a spiral the way that it wants to fold up on itself. And these little lumps, they actually kind of reminded me of seashells. So I might explore that later on down the road. But it's just a really beautiful form. This is definitely not a functional item, however you could probably hang it on a Christmas tree or something if you embellished it a little bit better or finished it a little nicer. You could always use it as decoration, or if you want to try and embellish a garment, you could. You know, it might be tricky, but you could definitely do that. So there's this three-dimensional form. And then this one is another interesting one. So I was actually working in the round for the middle portion of this, but I started with one, or let's see, I think 3 stitches, increasing every single one, and I kept increasing. And so you get these folds in on itself when I started decreasing. I did 3 rows of just single crochet without increasing or decreasing, and then I decreased on this side. And you can really see all of this fabric that's there that's wanting to fold in on itself, creating this kind of form. You could easily make this into a bath scrubby if you are somebody who wants to make something that's useful, a useful item. But again, these could just be decoration if you want. Plenty of forms in nature do this. It maximizes surface area, which is usually good. But it's just a fun form of crochet, so I thought I would teach you all how to do it. Actually, one comment. So what got me re-interested in this was the Denver Art Museum down in Denver, near my hometown. It just opened a new textile arts portion of the museum, and they're bringing the Satellite Coral Reef project to the Denver Art Museum. It's a workshop on Friday afternoons. I believe it's between 4 and 8 p.m. or so, where you can actually make pieces for the satellite coral reef that's there. And they're using this hyperbolic crochet because coral reefs actually have this form, you know, where they just have these really foldy, curvaceous forms. So that got me re-interested in it. It's just a really interesting project. It's for a good cause, you know, it's for awareness of what we're doing to our coral reefs, but it's also bringing people together. So if you want to check that out, you can look at the Denver Art Museum. I believe it's dam.org, and then look for their new textile arts exhibit, and you might be able to see some photos of it. The Smithsonian also had a coral reef project going on, so you could probably find photos online with that too. So let's get started. I know I'm rambling. So I'm working with Nature Spun from Brown Sheep Yarn Company. It's a fingering weight in the color Limestone 144S. I love this color. It's such a rich green, but it's not overpowering at all. It's a very thin yarn. It's 100% wool. So I might actually decide to felt this later on, and you can go to my Facebook at facebook.com/Benjamin Krudwig, and I'll post a picture of it once I felt it. So I started with a foundation chain of 5 and single crocheted, you know, those 5 chains. So hyperbolic crochet is very simple. All the stitches that you need to know is basically the chain stitch to start and single crochet. You can do hyperbolic crochet with double crochet, which I did in the white piece, but this I'll just show you in single crochet. So it's very simple. You just increase by a certain amount in every single stitch. So just to be simple, I'm going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch as I go along. So I've already chained 1 to start this row. I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch and do 1 single crochet, and a second single crochet. I'm going to go into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Next stitch, 1 single crochet, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. So in one row we have doubled the amount of stitches that we have. So we went from 5 to 10. In the next row we'll have 20, and in the next row we'll have 40, and in the next row we'll have 80. It's a very it gets big quickly, which is why if you do some of these projects you're going to use a lot of yarn. So make sure it's either cheap yarn or that it's worth it to you to use a lot of yarn for whatever project you're doing. I actually made a jellyfish that is pretty large, and the tentacles that I made are all done with Hyperbolic Crochet, where I made a very large chain, and then I double crocheted on that chain. I increased in each stitch twice, and then I did it again, and it created a spiral tentacle. So anyways, let's do the third row. So again, I'm just going to single crochet twice into each stitch. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So the mechanics of this is that you're trying to fit a lot of stitches into a very small amount of space. You are limited by how many stitches you started with, basically. And as you keep doing that, these stitches that you crochet in later rows are all fighting for space. So they're pushing each other away, trying to be the most relaxed state that they can get. That's actually a physical property, is that most things want to be in the least amount of energy state as possible, so they will try to release the energy and be in a neutral state. The same goes for this crochet. So you already see, so we're in 40 stitches now. The stitches are just pushing out and creating this curve around here. I'm not making a curve like you do in the round, you know, where you have a very specific set of placements where you are going to increase. I'm just increasing, increasing, increasing. And they're starting to push away from each other and creating this form. So I'm going to go on to the next row, and we'll really start it to see it bloom in some regard. So again, I'm just increasing in every stitch by 1. You can do it by 3 in every stitch if you want. That'll create a much denser fabric, and you'll get more curves. Let me get some yarn out of the ball here. This is kind of a fresh skein of yarn, so it's still wound tightly in there. So yeah, you can increase by 3, you can increase by 4. However, if you do that, it's going to get real dense and real complex real quick, which may be what you're looking for, but also might not be. You can also choose to just do the hyperbolic crochet in a specific section. So you can single crochet along somewhere, and then place a stitch marker perhaps, or 2, and start increasing in that section every time you pass that section. So that could create a really interesting panel of fabric. You know, it makes me think of like a flamenco dancer's dress. You could get that volume there by increasing and increasing and increasing in a specific section of your work. You can do this along the hem of a skirt that you're crocheting, or the cuff of a skirt that you're crocheting, or the collar of a shirt that you're crocheting, or you can add it onto something that you didn't crochet. It's just start with a foundation of stitches, and it'll work really well. You know, the possibilities really are endless, and you have complete control over what you're doing. With hyperbolic crochet, you know, you can stop increasing and just crochet the rest of the way, and then the curve will kind of work itself out, you know, because there will be more space and more weight for it to do so. So here I am 4 rows in, and if you see, it's starting to fold up on itself. If I were to try to try to lay it flat, you know, so the outsides are going straight up with the 5 things, you see it gets this fold. Or if I were to lay it flat this way, it's starting to spiral up on itself. And it'll continue to do this the more that you go along, with the single crochet increasing in every stitch. So I'm actually going to probably stop here and make more of this, and I'll come back, show you what it is, and then I'll felt it and come back and show you that as well. So be right back. Hey YouTubers, so I'm back, and this is what I've gotten. So I did 6 rows, I believe 6 rows, it might have been 7, I don't remember, of increasing in every single stitch to create this form. It kind of reminds me of kale, like all the little frilly bits going on. So we'll see how it looks when I felt it, and we'll be back with that. And we're back with it, the hyperbolic crochet being felted. So I don't know if you know how to felt, but if you don't, all you do is you take something that's 100% wool. I think some other animal fibers work as well, but wool works the best in my opinion. And you take as hot as you can stand water, and you massage your piece in the water with a little bit of dish soap. And then you shock it with some cold water, and I like to go back and forth between the hot water and the cold water. So what happens is the hot water relaxes the fiber, and lets all like the hairs spread apart. And what happens when you do it with the cold water shock is that those all bunch up and kind of latch on to whatever's closest. So if you're massaging all the fibers out, then they're going to be in a different place, and when you shock it, they'll just crunch in together. Any place that's closest. So here's the finished felted piece. It's really interesting. I like the look of the solid fabric. You can sort of still see the stitch definition, but I think this could be really interesting as a a brooch, or possibly some sort of well, right now it kind of looks like a squished frog, but it could look good in any place. You could also coil it around itself, like so. We're gonna see if I can do this. It's still a little wet. I didn't wait to let it dry. It doesn't really matter. So you kind of get this little floret, little piece that almost looks like a rose. So you could do this in, a rose color, and use it to attach to a dress or a cardigan or something, or a pin, I don't know. Whatever you choose to do is alright. So yeah, that's hyperbolic crochet. I hope you enjoyed it. It's going to be kind of a long video, I'm sure. But if you liked this, please subscribe to my channel. Please comment. I reply to almost all comments, and if you want to, you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/BenjaminKrudwig. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/BenjaminKrudwig. And you can also find me on Etsy. I do have an Etsy store there, and that's benjamincrudwig.etsy.com. You can pretty much Google me and you'll find me. So I hope you enjoy, and I will see you next time.